Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom.
People in every part of the globe are perishing because the judgment is low. From children to teens to elderly folks, this epidemic is incredibly bold. Wisdom is needed to see through the fog. Without it, we'll stumble and see to the long. You're jumping without something to break and fall if you choose to ignore wisdom's beckoning call. The only people who will lose the war are those who don't know who they're fighting for. You are the only one who can decide your fate. Don't waste your life when you can live inside of grace. If we turn to God and behold His shining face, we will gain traction to run in this human race.
Hey, what's going on? JC Johnson here for The Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And today we are discussing the wisdom of intellectualism. More on that after this.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom.
All right, welcome back. You were listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And of course, we are on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. I'm your host, JC Johnson. And on today's episode, we're discussing the wisdom of intellectualism. And we were just, taking a look at what some different people had to say about being an intellectual. We looked at an article that discussed some different types of intellectuals, value-oriented intellectuals versus technocratic and policy-oriented intellectuals. I thought it was a pretty interesting take on that. And if you want to, read that whole article, it was published on Psychology Today, and it's called "Intellectuals, Who Are They?" We also took a look at some quotes from some well-known people, such as Albert Einstein, who said, "Intellectuals solve problems, geniuses prevent them." And I think that's definitely something that we can really meditate on and just kind of let those words sink in, because at the end of the day, we have the choice as far as whether we're going to be innovative, if we're going to be people who are starting trends, or are we going to just be people who are following trends. I think it's better to be someone who's starting something, but not everybody is like that, and not everyone's required to do that. But at the end of the day, there are different types of people in the world, right? There are those people who want to make change, and there are those people who are affected by change that was put into place by somebody else. People get mad. There's a lot of people right now who are upset because Donald Trump is the president. Maybe they didn't vote for him, or for whatever reason, they think he's inappropriate or that he's not a good president. But the crazy thing about that is, though, that there are always people who will have a problem with someone, but these are also the same people who may not have even voted, right? So someone may say, "Oh, I don't like this candidate, I don't like this president, I don't like this governor, or this mayor or whatever," but they may not have even tried to do something, right? And even beyond voting, think about the fact that nobody who's in any position of power, this is not somebody who is better than you. This is not someone who's necessarily smarter than you or more worthy of that position than you, but this is somebody who is just willing to go after it. This is somebody who is willing to just to say, regardless of what people think, whether I'm an underdog or whatever, I'm going to go after this because I think I should be in this position. So whether we agree with someone or not, we can't knock them for being proactive and going after something that we didn't go after, right? So at the end of the day, if you want to change something, if you don't believe in certain policies or a particular president or anything like that, do something about it. Don't just complain about it. Don't just post a bunch of crazy memes about it, but say, how can I make a difference? How can I help there to be a different outcome during the next election? Or how can I myself get into politics so that I can do something, so that I can actually be someone that people are voting for? I mean, nothing is impossible, right? Anything that you have a vision for, anything that you truly believe in, it can always happen. Especially when you trust God to open doors for you, and you're not afraid to walk through those doors. Anything is possible. That's how anyone who has done anything great in life, these are the principles that they live by. They didn't allow other people to tell them that they weren't good enough or smart enough or anything. They just went after it. So just something to think about. Here's something from Michael Ignatieff. He said, intellectuals are good at seeing the big picture, but they're not so good at process. So this is one too that I think is important, and it's something that's good to, it's a good reminder for those people who just like to feel like they have the answers. Maybe someone who has lots of great ideas, someone that inspires people, somebody, this is a type of person that maybe is writing a lot of different books about a wide range of subjects, or somebody that you would see in debates and things like that. This is someone who says a lot of the right things, but they don't always know how to put it into practice. This is why you see all the time people that have these great ideas and people who are well known, and they say all these good things when they do public speaking and stuff, but then they get caught up in scandals, or they find themselves unable to put into practice the very things that they tell other people that they should do. That's one of the dangers that intellectuals can find themselves in sometimes, and that's why I think it's really important. I definitely agree with what he said here, that intellectuals can see the big picture, but sometimes they're not good at seeing, how can I get from point A to point Z? What are all those little steps in between that I need to do? They see the vision, they see where they're going, but sometimes they either need to get people in their life who are able to help them to get to where they're at. I think a great example of this is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, he's the one of the founders, the main founder really of Amazon, and he had several partners, people that he worked with that helped him. He was the visionary. He was the person that made a lot of the big decisions and hired the right people. But that's the key. He hired the right people. He knew that there were certain things that he wanted, but he didn't try to do it all himself, because he wouldn't have been able to. He wouldn't have accomplished all that he has if it was just him, no matter how smart he is, because you need other people who can sometimes see the in between your vision, because you see the big picture, but some other people see, okay, that's great. I think that's something great to strive for, but before we get there, we have these other 5,000 steps in between that you might not have thought about. So there's all different types of people in this world, and that's why there's not one particular type of person that's better than another, because everyone plays their part, right? So you have the visionaries, and then you also have those people who are gifted in knowing how to fulfill that vision. And I think that when people work together, they can accomplish anything, really. So something for us to keep in mind. Here's a quote from Albert Camus, or Camus, and he said, "An intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself. intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself. So this is somebody who really is somewhat introspective. This is somebody who challenges their own self. This is somebody who's really thinking about what is really going on inside of my mind. Why do I think this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I believe this? This is somebody who doesn't just take their own ideas and run with it, but somebody who really takes the time to even make sure that they are thinking properly. There was a great interpretation of this quote. This was from someone online, actually, as they were thinking about this statement from Albert Camus here, and this is what they had to say. They said that in regards to saying an intellectual is someone whose mind watches itself, it means that it is intelligent to question your own thinking and ideas. Viewing an idea from a different perspective can lead to a greater understanding of it. A mind which watches itself can attempt to see its own bigotry, ignorance, flawed thinking, etc. I thought it was pretty good. But more on that after this. You are listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
Nothing moved in to take its place.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets, and I'm your host, JC Johnson, and we are live on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. On today's show, we have been discussing the wisdom of intellectualism, and before the break, we looked at some quotes from some well-known, some not so well-known people in regards to this. And we're going to take a look now at what the Bible has to say about intellectualism. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 8. And this is in the easy to read version, the ERV. I really like this translation because I think it really simplifies everything. It's a paraphrase, so if you're doing some serious study, I wouldn't use this alone. I would use this, along with some other translations that are a little bit more literal to the original meaning. But just for the sake of, having a general understanding and being able to take away something from it, I really like this translation. And here it says in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 8, trust the Lord completely and don't depend on your own knowledge. With every step you take, think about what he wants, and he will help you to go the right way. Don't trust in your own wisdom, but fear and respect the Lord and stay away from evil. If you do this, it will be like a refreshing drink and medicine for your body. So that's definitely an awesome passage, one of my favorite passages in the Bible, because it says that we should trust in God and not in our own minds, right? So we're talking about intellectualism, and being an intellectual. There are people in this world who are so smart that they're foolish, right? Basically, they're so intelligent that they feel that they don't need God. And a person like that, who feels that they are so smart that they don't need to look to God for wisdom, is putting themselves in a very dangerous situation, I think. So we definitely have to remember ultimately that it is God who gives us true wisdom, right? Because you can have knowledge, but wisdom is something that only comes from God. So there's something that even an intellectual can miss if he doesn't have wisdom, if he doesn't know how to properly apply the knowledge that he has. In Isaiah chapter 5, verses 20 and 21, it says, look at those people. They say good is bad and bad is good. They think light is dark and dark is light. They think sour is sweet and sweet is sour. They think they're so smart. They think they're very intelligent, right? So this is talking about those who basically would call say that wrong is right, and saying, no, this is not wise. That's not something that you should be doing. No, the wise thing to do would be to call things for what they are, whether it's comfortable or not. There's no point in trying to say something is what it is not, because that's being dishonest. That is it's being shady. So the Bible is definitely not in support of that. But there are those people who try to use their intellect to justify this, to say, oh no, I figured this out on my own. I'm way smarter than any kind of other intellect that's out there. Basically, whatever I say is what it is. But no, that's not the case. James chapter 1 verses 5 through 8. This is also a really good passage. I like this one. It says, "Do any of you need wisdom? Ask God for it. He is generous and he enjoys giving to everyone. So he will give you wisdom. But when you ask God, you must believe. Don't doubt him. Whoever doubts is like a wave in the sea that is blown up and down by the wind." People like that are thinking two different things at the same time. They can never decide what to do. So they should not think that they will receive anything from the Lord. Okay, so now as we're talking about intellectuals, right here, this is saying that there are some people who they just don't get it. They just don't understand that you can do a bunch of study, you can do all the study in the world, but when it comes to wisdom, this is something that you have to ask God for. And it's not like you'll ask him and he'll tell you no, right? Because this says that if you ask God for wisdom, he's generous and he enjoys giving to everyone. So God, more than anyone else in this world, definitely wants you and me to have wisdom. And that's what this show is about. This is all for the love of wisdom. That's why we're here today, because we love wisdom. If you're listening to the show, if you've listened to several episodes, then I would definitely say you're somebody who loves wisdom. You're somebody who really wants to do what's right in this life. You're someone who wants to be on the right track. You don't want to be led astray. You don't want to be, foolish, out here just, making crazy decisions with no regard for the consequences or without any care for what God thinks about it. But you're somebody who really wants to make your life count. And that's what this is all for. And this says, don't doubt him. Whoever doubts is like a double-minded person. This is somebody who maybe their intellect is getting in the way of their faith. And that's what I don't want for anyone to do. That's the thing we have to do. Balance your intellect with faith and you'll be all right. More on that later. JC Johnson, for the love of wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And I'm out. And of course, you're listening on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. See you next time.
Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some. Because we love wisdom. Because we love wisdom. Fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If you want it, come and get some.